Good afternoon. Oh, this is a beautiful group of people. I'm so honored and surprised. My goodness, there's a few seats down front. It's like church, you know. Seats in the front are the last to be filled. But my name is Dean Zeigler, and I am married beyond all recognition. 55 years to Linda. How about pop up so they see who you are? This is, she is my most admired living human being, and that's the truth. I call her Wonder Woman because she wonders about me. That's how she got that. I want to present a program on one of the Hawaiian islands today called Molokai, and it came from a week with National Geographic photographers as instructors, 3 of them, plus a 4th photographer, also professional. And, whoops, wrong direction. I went there because of this guy whose name is DeWitt Jones, and he is a pro photographer. He had 20 years with the National Geographic and did some national ad campaigns, which I imagine you've seen his photos, had no idea who took them. He's a prominent corporate keynote speaker. He produces leadership videos. And our bishop, when I was a district superintendent on the Butler District in the United Methodist Church, used some of his videos because they were basically about leadership principles. And I was so taken with this guy and his various videos and his spirit. I felt a kinship with him, and I felt that he was had no idea whether he was a man of faith or Christian belief or not, but everything he said and the way he said it and the joy and the energy of his spirit connected with me. And I thought, boy, it's so consonant with what I believe a Christian should be, and that is joyful and grateful. Gratitude is one of the best feelings you can ever have. So I said to myself, I'm going to meet this guy someday. And he's a captivating storyteller. He's very congenial and insightful, so positive-minded. He has a website called Celebrate What's Right with the World. How about that? We could use a little bit of that today, right? And get our minds off the negative. There's so much of that, but there's also so much good. In fact, so much more that's good if we train ourselves to think that way. So he has a website where he invites people to send in something they celebrate. And it has over 10,000 followers now. Did I mention he's hilarious? Oh, he truly is. And so let's move on to a Hawaiian vacation, which Linda and I worked in. And we went to the big island of, well, first we flew over to Kauai, that top arrow, the left-hand island. And then we went to the big island down in the bottom right. And then Linda flew home, and I flew over to Molokai. You see Molokai right in the middle. It is the least populated. It is the least commercial island. It's very rural, very laid back, very Hawaiian. There are no brand names on the island, no commercial development, no hotels. There's one hotel that's run by a local family. And so there is, off we go to tiny Molokai. You know, we departed at dusk. There were no meals served, and I thought, well, when I get to the airport, I'll get a little sandwich or something, or not. It was closed, and they were sweeping the floors. The janitor was there, but one of them knew how to, he said, no, everything's closed up. But wait a minute. He went and got into some shop and brought me a Spam and rice sandwich with egg. And I tell you, it saved my life. I was so famished. And it's wrapped in seaweed. And it was good. You know, Spam is not phony email. It's the state dish of Hawaii. It is a very popular, since World War II. And it's a staple in the diet of many Hawaiians. Here's the hotel. I stayed in this the first night, and this night on this trip, because I did take 2 trips to be with DeWitt Jones. So there's a few from the second one. Where we actually went was what's called the Hui Ho'olana Center. It means a group or association or gathering of people who are marked by hope, buoyancy, resilience, and strength to adapt. This is also a center for the arts and for teaching, and it is situated on this high plateau with a sweeping view of the Pacific. It's up on the middle ridge, on the middle of the island. The owner-operators are Ricky and Bronwyn Cook of the famous Cook family. I go way back in Hawaiian history, and at one time the Cook family owned about 1/3 of Molokai. It was the biggest ranch. I don't know how many thousands and thousands of acres I knew at one time, but I've forgotten. So we had our gathering circle the first evening of the next day, and actually maybe this was sunrise. So I was introduced to the various people, and I saw this one guy. So, well, nobody asked me about him, right? So asked me about this guy. Okay, I'll tell you about him. I said, "Where are you from?" He said, "You'd never know where it was. It's a tiny little village near Pittsburgh. It's called Economy." I said, "Economy? I'm from Cranberry Township." And I was from Harmony at that time. And it turns out that one of my churches was Economy United Methodist Church, and he helped his grandfather lay the bricks for that church. And I met him decades later in Hawaii. The Hui Ho'olana's dual mission is to offer educational experiences while restoring the original native forest. I don't know if you knew, I didn't know till I got there, 90% of all the vegetation on the Hawaiian Islands was brought there by others from other places. So the fauna, the flora and fauna is not exactly original. So they are trying to establish colonies of the grasses, the little trees and the bushes that were originally part of the Hawaiian Islands. Inside the main lodge, there's a large a meeting area, and there's a loft over top, which has some sleeping areas. And there is the photography workspace, which was a big long table, and we all got our computers out. Jonathan Kingston was our Adobe Lightroom guru for editing. And after we did our photos and come back in the afternoon for a spell where everybody's on their computer, see what we got, because sometimes we had no idea what we actually got till we saw it on a screen. Outside, it's a lovely place. This whole center is just gorgeous. Wonder whose feet are getting toasted there. Well, consider the viewpoint of a photographer, and you'll probably know. Those are mine. There is a clawfoot tub with a view, a beautiful view right down over that plateau. Rock gardens, a nice place for a nap, a swimming pool, the facilities, open air above. And I love this shower. Talk about forest bathing, that was at its best. The one side of the shower is just open to all that vegetation. It was about a yard thick. And you notice they had a Kirkland brand shampoo there. The highest grossing store in the entire Costco chain is in Oahu. And all the people in the islands, they take those little plane hoppers to get their big tubs full of stuff and fly it back home. And then maybe a couple months later, they'll go back. So manicured gardens at the Hui, we call it the Hui. And daily rainbows, hourly rainbows. The weather the clouds just come and go in a marine environment. It's never the same from, 15-minute intervals. It'll look different. Traveler's palm, I thought that was beautiful. And there's some ginger and heliconia. And this backwards facing hibiscus, which was right down at the bottom level with the porch floor and facing the porch. So it was about that far away from the boards, you couldn't see the front of it, so I took a picture of the back of it, of course. But what I liked was the profile of the girl on the edge of the flower. Do you see it? Bottom right, see her nose and her lips? Yeah, there it is. Okay, and this is one I think Linda took. All kinds of little things to photograph. That's all intentional. They just put all these little the little Buddha figures, and it is a fairly Eastern. Did you see the gecko? Yeah, it's there. This is a close-up of it. A little gecko right there on the plant. This is one of Ricky's dogs. They're all rescue pups of indeterminate origin and pedigree. He loves taking care of all these pups. I wandered around, took pictures of anything I could. You know, when you're there to take pictures, you just kind of go crazy. Snap, 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 snap. So I got home and I said, wonder what these would look like if I messed with the color. Well, this is some of the stuff I came up with. I won't show you a bunch of that, but I learned that this beautiful sprawling banyan tree was planted by Ricky Cook's grandfather. And I set my camera right down on one of those long exposed roots to get that shot. The food, they raise their own vegetables, the greens, the breads are cooked fresh at 4 to 5 every morning a.m., then made ready for our breakfast. Banana pancakes, bacon, yes, bacon. They didn't have that every week, but have you ever eaten honey glazed radish and pecan salad? I hadn't either. Still haven't. Linda liked it. Plant whisperers night quarters. Do you talk to your plants? They say they grow better if you do. Did you know that when farmers talk to their cows, they give more milk? They think it's a matter of in one ear and out the other. There's more where that came from. They're very sophisticated in how they plant. They'll put this portable chicken coop over a section that they want to plant. The chickens eat all the little vermin and the bugs that would hurt the plants, and they leave their droppings, which fertilizes it, and then they pick it up. You see handles on the bottom there of that chicken pen, and they move it to the next section, and that's how they prepare for planting. So here's some of their vegetable and herb gardens. We were there in December. Linda and I did Thanksgiving on the Big Island before she flew home, and then we started about the 1st of December. Our days, load them up. We had a caravan of pickup trucks. Put your cameras, your gear, the people, water bottles, dogs. He had several that loved to go with us on excursions. He checked to make sure there was nobody allergic to them, and if everybody was cool with the dogs, then they were part of our group. Drivers rotated, and that was fun, so participants got some fun time with each leader. Here's the young guy, Jonathan Kingston, who shoots for the Geographic on a contract basis. Here's what he looks like in his current, he cleans up pretty well. And this is his pro photography website that I pulled that picture from. And then we hit a road, and it's, you never know. We didn't know what we were going to find, but it was always surprising. Sometimes it was pretty rigorous to get to where we were going to shoot, down to a tidal pool area. You had to watch where you walked, because this one was surprised, because right there, that little crevice happens to be a blowhole. And if you get too close, you'll get a nice little shower. But that water comes in probably a good 20 feet out of sight before it emerges there with the power of those waves. This is a nice little pocket beach where the waves left their mark, the high water mark, with all the little leaf droppings that were there, which I thought, that's fun, I'll take a picture of that kind of stuff. A variety of waves. And that was the point of learning how to take pictures. What moved you? What spoke to you? This was more about mind and heart than it was technically about how to use your camera. It was all about seeing. And that's why we like, this is part of the large ranch which they're trying to sell. Ricky's grandfather and father made bad investments, unfortunately, and lost all of that land. But they're trying to sell it to someone who won't let commercial interests come in and put big hotels up and towers and all that stuff all over. I hope they can do it. Some shots along the way. And then there's porch time. And that is where we gathered under this three-sided open end on one end and roofed, and talked about the art of seeing, the art of taking pictures. Here's John telling how he unknowingly took a Maynard Ferguson album cover. He loved Maynard Ferguson, trumpeter, and he went to a concert and he worked the perimeter and got a shot. Thought it was pretty good, sent it to Maynard's people, and they eventually asked him, do you mind if we will pay you to use this as an album cover? So he was very happy about that. Lots of humor, lots of fun. There's my friend from Economy on the right, lives in, where is it, Traverse City in Michigan. This lady on the left, I didn't get her husband, but this couple comes and volunteers 6 months a year at the Hui, and then they go home and sell a gazillion bunch of real estate so they can come back and live here 6 months. They should warn guests that they are a confirmed naturist couple. You remember that cloth tub football, that bathtub? Yeah, I walked up in the afternoon once, saw somebody sitting in it. I'll go over and say hello. I got close enough to see. She had no clothes on. So she said, that's all right, that's all right. Now I backed up. Talked to her from a little bit of a distance. And who would name a guy Flint Sparks? Well, this guy's parents did. He grew up Southern Baptist and was actually a Buddhist priest at this point in his life and journey. The people came from all over, very different backgrounds. And there's an interesting backstory to the whole property. Customs, Costumes, and Cultures Around the World with Nancy Cook, a lecture series brochure from the 70s. She was actually appointed by President Nixon as an ambassadress of fashion. The idea was to take American culture to various places. She was a prominent LA socialist, also from Hawaii and the Cook family. This is a cover of Swedish Life magazine. And that's Ricky Cook's mother, the current owner now. She wrote an autobiography. She was a confidant of the Maharishi Yogi, who founded the worldwide transcendental meditation movement. And she knew all kinds of people. She knew Greta Garbo, she knew Richard Burton. She had a place in LA that was kind of secret, and she opened it to all of these movie stars to come in and get away from the paparazzi and have a little rest from all the hubbub around them. But the Maharishi used Nancy's connections with rich and famous people to build his movement. He thought if he could get 10% of the world's population to meditate daily, it would bring about world peace. We're still working on that project. But she knew all kinds of people, and she brought the Beatles there. She brought Mia Farrow to the island, over to India, that is, to the ashram, where she persuaded them to all go over and study with this yogi fellow. Well, her son Ricky, just out of college, went over for a visit with his mom, and a prominent, wealthy couple wanted to shoot a tiger. They weren't interested in the yogi and transcendental meditation. So because of our connections, they asked if she would go with them. So she and Ricky went on an elephant with the others out into the jungle to shoot a tiger and in India. Well, there came a point where the guy that paid all the money to shoot a tiger was tired of being up in the tree stand. So he said, Ricky, trade places with me. I'll get on the elephant with your mom. And he did. And don't you know, wasn't very long before the tiger come trotting out and he shot the tiger. Well, That hunt inspired a Beatles song. Some of you may know it, the continuing story of Bungalow Bill. Did you ever hear it? Hey, Bungalow Bill, what did you kill? It was a very scathing, sarcastic song because John Lennon was incensed that this beautiful animal had been shot by this young buck college grad. And that is I won't play it, it could play on here, but went out tiger hunting with his elephant gun. In that case of accidents, he always took his mom. He's the all-American bullet-headed Saxon mother's son, and all the children saying, hey, Bungalow Bill, what did you kill? So that's part of the story of the Hui and the Cook family. First photo shoot, evening of the first day, the bluffs above Kalaupapa. There's only one real road in Molokai. The rest of them are out in various stages of passability, shall we say. We got there. It's so fun to be in a new adventure, not knowing what's going to come next. Isn't that? You've all been there. You've all had experiences like that. Tripods up, cameras primed, ready, aim, shoot. There's Ricky helping us, telling us what we should be doing, where we should aim, and giving the history. So we spread out a little bit, everybody. You got to have a tripod for landscape photography. It's just absolutely essential. So we all have that. These are the tallest sea cliffs in the world, are on Molokai, running up to 3,900 feet. The peak just out of sight on the right top corner is at 3,300 feet. And that little bit of land on the bottom left that is moving out into the ocean is the Kalaupapa Peninsula, where the leper colony was, and the story of Father Damien and the others. Very remote, can't get to it anyway except by boat. There's no way you climb down from those mountains. And that's the reason they were forcefully quarantined there from 1865 until the laws were abolished in 1969. Now, fortunately, in the late 40s, the sulfone drugs were discovered to prevent the disease from progressing, and it made it so it wasn't transmissible either. It wasn't contagious. So we learned some of that history. I turn around, here's Carl photographing a trucker. I don't know what he's doing there. Everybody else is looking at the beautiful sea and the landscape. And well, then why is Jonathan photographing Carl? I guess I did it, so maybe. So this is looking the other direction. It tapers down until the other end of the island. Sunset, we stayed out most evenings till sunset. Another morning, another place to shoot. And we are wandering around. They said, all right, there's this catamaran. It's orange and it's pretty nice background around it. So why don't you take off and see how many pictures you can take and see what, so each of us probably took 100 or 200 pictures of this boat from far, from near, from low, from high, any way we could think of to take a picture of this boat. And other things, anything at all. It's just we were so full. There's Cole. He took probably 19,000 pictures the first day. Anything he saw, he took a picture of it. Oh, he found something down there. He found something interesting right there on the beach. Well, I found Cole interesting, so I took a picture of him. He didn't even know I took that because I stood up on the bench. He lay down on a bench there on the outside deck. We stopped a little bit later in a place called the Halawa Valley as a tropical flower farm. Going down this windy, twisty road, we began to wonder, where are they taking us? Well, there's the valley. And the landscapes are just truly phenomenal. And so we finally get to the bottom and we find a place where we can stop and eat our lunch. Somebody was worried that tree was going to run away, so they tied it down with a cable. Had our lunch, and then we were going to go in and meet Kalani, the owner. But there was this tiny little church. The islands were heavily evangelized by Christian missionaries, and there are all kinds of churches all throughout the islands. Many of them just built by a little village, a little community, just big enough to hold their little group. And this was one of the most picturesque. Sadly, it eventually was condemned since we've been there and has been taken down. But it was not in use at the time that I took this picture. But it was fun to photograph, shall we say. Kalani's flower garden. He ships tropical and exotic flowers all over the world and to the mainland. Here he is, explaining to us what he does. The tub is to kill any vermin or bugs or whatever that might be on the flowers before he wraps them up to ship them. So he shows us how he's doing that. Explains his process and how he keeps them fresh to arrive and have at least a couple weeks of shelf life once they arrive wherever they're being sent. Heliconia and other plants are just beautiful. So we were allowed to wander his gardens and take pictures. Banana trees were here and there and everywhere. This is plantain, not bananas as such. And then he made smoothies for us all, which is one of his specialties for the groups that come in. There's DeWitt Jones. And we visit with him and get our smoothie. Oh, I did had some more fun with false colors. I couldn't help myself. It was so fun. Big elephant ear leaves. Oh. I thought this would make a nice pattern for a Hawaiian t-shirt, but I never did anything with it. This is a church that burned. The roof fell in, it burned, but the walls, it was built by the people who worship there out of beach cobbles and plaster. And now there's a congregation of trees that worship there. They lift up their leafy arms in prayer. And it's a beautiful, interesting place to wander around and take pictures. Here's Marcina, of Polish background from New York City there, and wandering the far side of it. Any place you look, if you just melt into it, you see something that might look good as a picture, at least to me. And that was the point, one of the points I make. If it looks good to you, chances are it will look good to someone else. So what do you notice? That was something they always ask us. What is it that draws your attention? What are you noticing? All right, start there. I noticed this, and I thought, what on earth? Do you know what that is? Anybody guess? No. That is a decaying coconut. So it was fun. I thought that drew my interest. I'll take a picture of that. Here we are down at the beach in that valley, and darn, why can't I remember Jonathan's wife's name? She's stacking rocks, seeing how many she can balance up there. And so I wandered around the beach, and I went clear around to the far side there, at the base of that hill for a while, until they finally yelled and got my attention and said, we're leaving. But I am a wanderer. And on our way back, we skirted the island, getting closer to sunrise, and we came around this hill, and there was the sun setting. Just a gorgeous sight. Everybody stayed up by the road, and I thought, man, look at those big rocks down there. I got to go out, see what's down there, and get some photos from down there. And I'm glad I did, because the foreground and to compose a landscape, I thought it was better down there. I saw the pictures the rest of them took, and I said, you guys should have come down here. But they didn't, so I had fun with that. I've been taking pictures for all my life, but I didn't get serious about it until, 20, 25 years ago. And about the time we started to travel. When I retired off the cabinet here in Western Pennsylvania, the next year is when I went, 2014, to meet DeWitt Jones and to take one of his week-long seminars. And it still remains one of the delights of my life and memory. and as well the second trip that we took. We're going down to a famous beach. And as I was talking to people, I asked this lady, I said, Sue, where are you from? She says, South Hills, Pittsburgh. So there's two people, three of us out of a dozen people, all from within 20 miles of each other, didn't meet till Hawaii. Go figure, that's the way the world works. This is the longest sand beach on the island of Molokai. It stretches around 3 miles long. But it's a famous beach for its waves. That's okay. They're shore break waves, meaning that it's pretty deep off the shore, and so when the waves roll in, they don't roll over like they do in Myrtle Beach, 100 yards out, and they come right to the shore and then they crash. But under the water or at the shore's edge are rock ledges with vertical faces. And so when they crash onto those, they throw up water in amazing shapes and forms. And Jonathan was watching. You see this rock shelf right on the bottom here. When the big waves roll in, this is before the big waves started, about an hour later, they hit that, and some of the times they'll go straight up in the air 15, 20 feet, look like a fleur-de-lis. They just spray out in every direction. This is the shot he got. That is not manipulated. That happened, and he didn't know what he got because you put it on a burst of pictures. You shoot 10 or 12 in a second to get. And so back at the computer, his eyes got big. And that became a print in the National Geographic Gallery in Oahu. $5,000 per print. They made 1,000 of them. You know how much he gets? $50 per picture. Photographers don't make a lot of money unless they are the very elite of the elite and get maybe a contract for just that advertising picture. And then maybe they'll get a couple $100,000 or something. But on the other hand, if they sell all 1,000 pictures, he'll get $50,000, right? So, and he's got more than one now at the gallery. He is quite good. These are some of my shots of the spray. It was offshore wind, so it was just blowing the tops off the waves as they rose up, and beautiful spray. They call it horse's mane. You see how one wave has come right up on top of another, and that, like that crevice in the middle, the lower part is starting to curl over, and then right behind it comes one that just stacks up, and that things like that were happening all the time. And then these two young bucks with their paddle boards came out. I don't know whether they were hired. It wouldn't surprise me because DeWitt was arranging things that would appeal to us and that would be creative and interesting. So they came out and surfed these waves. Very dangerous. The waves have gotten very large now. You see how they're blowing the tops off. It was a stiff wind, and it was just churning and foaming, and there are rocks under there. You see here in the foreground, right at the bottom, he's headed right for that rock. There's one kind of right in front of him to the left. It's a little hidden, and he's coming closer and closer, and I'm taking pictures, and I'm thinking, what's he going to hit? How's he going to get through this? And then he just washed up in front of everybody on the shore. You see the guy in the blue shirt, he's like astounded. He can't believe it. This is one of the local young men. And here's another one. So I had a lucky angle on that one. Zoom in on that a little bit. They've got flippers on, so they have a little bit of control, and then it calmed down and the sun is setting, and then we had one of the most gorgeous sunsets that you could imagine. How's the time? What time is it? This is an hour program. I better hurry up. Oh, 2:05. Okay, so I could talk and talk, but the sky changed constantly. They call that ripple sky, a mackerel sky, I guess. It's supposed to look like scales on a mackerel or something, or the colorations. We went on to another day to Clay and Diane Adachi's tinted pigeons. Now this was truly unusual and fun. They have all these pigeons that they dip in a bucket of food coloring. All the kinds of colors they can think of. And they take them to celebrations like wedding receptions and graduations. They have a portable coop in the back of their pickup. They let them loose. They fly all around and everybody enjoys the color. And when they get tired and hungry after about an hour, they all fly back down. They don't lose their pigeons. They come back to the coop. Audubon Society came out and checked this over, said, what are you doing to these pigeons? You know, they finally said, we can't see that it hurts them. I don't think the pigeons know they're a different color. They seem healthy. The coloring isn't harmful. We eat it, so that's what they did. And we set our cameras on burst mode, and you could just hear all these people hitting their shutter, and maybe 10 or 15 shots would go off within a second. And of course, when you get back, the problem is now you've got 4,000 pictures to look at to see which ones are the good ones. But these are a few of my favorites that I took of Clay and Diane's pigeons. Diane was from Toledo, so she was from this. I made a mistake of saying one day from back in the States, and the young lady says, this is a state. I said, oh yeah, forgot, sorry, mainland. I manipulated this to use it on a Sunday morning worship slide on Pentecost, because just the symbol of the dove and all that, and I like the soft color that, I thought that turned out pretty well as a background slide, one of the worship slides I prepared. Every time I zoomed in, they fly with their beaks open. I didn't know that until I had the zoom lens on it and brought them in close to see. Apparently, they just have to have that air coming. Well, you think of all that energy, fly, fly, fly. I loved how they almost took the shape of that vegetation as they were flying, and they just disappeared behind it, but I happened to catch that group. That's one of my favorite pictures right there. Here's a double attack wing pigeon. Sheer chance that a smaller white pigeon was above it. You cannot see anything of it. I did not manipulate that at all. That is what my camera saw. I didn't know my camera saw it until I got back and opened it on the computer because everything's happening so fast. Oh, I forgot to move that writing over. That text says, when do we have lunch? So they came in, and the coop was just 10, 15 feet from where we'd gone at that time. Now we're going to a preserve called Moamami Beach. And because the Hui leaders, DeWitt Jones and Ricky Cook and others, are some of the main trustees of the land trust, they have all the keys to get us in here. So that was also a nice feature of this seminar. We got there in the dark because we wanted to photograph a sunrise. And it was very noisy. The waves were crashing, wind was blowing, and the sun would be rising from on the right side of the picture. This is a bit of a time exposure. What it does is smooth out the waves. The land is static because it just sits there, but if you leave your shutter open for 2, 3, 4, 5 seconds, you get an interesting effect. And because it was dark almost, this is much brighter here than it actually was. So I had to leave my shutter open just to get enough light for it to make an image. It just smoothed out all the places where the waves were foaming or crashing are the white areas. Do you notice the 3 eggs laying right on the rock in the bottom of the picture? 3 little eggs. They are one of the shearwater. No, not the shearwater. They carve out nests in the sand Well, I'll leave that and move on to some of the beautiful scenes and landscapes that this area presented to us. We moved on to just around the corner of this beach, another place where the waves crash onto these ledges and just shoot the water straight up in the air. Oh, I got something out of order here. Anyway, this is the sunrise coming up on the right. This was in 2014. Sunset 2018 when we were there. Different time of the year. And we did not have the same kind of color, but it was a wild time. Another thing that we were able to photograph is young girls doing their native Hawaiian dances, the hula. And these are dances which tell stories by their movements. They don't have cheerleading competitions in Hawaii. All of the kids, the girls dance. They have hula dance competitions, and they go from island to island, see which group can do. This is a group that danced. There were about 10, 12 of them, but they broke them down after they did some dances and said, now you can pose them, you can do whatever. So I said, you girls, can you climb? Oh yeah, they said. So we went down to the edge of the water, and I said, how about if you get up on those and let me pose you? So they were happy to do that. Now I want you to look at their faces. The girl on the right, the girl on the bottom left with the red, and the one in the middle who's looking down. Because I have a picture of them 4 years later, because the same group came and danced for us when I went back and took Linda with me the second time. And this young lady, and she was in 9th grade, and I was flirting with all these little young girls and asking them about their school and things. And I just thought she was a beautiful young lady. And so I was taking pictures of her, and she started walking towards me. I said, no, stay there. But she didn't stay there. She kept coming. And she was taking this lei off the plumeria blossoms. And I didn't know what she was doing. She came right up to me, and she slipped it around my neck. So that was a little gift that she gave me for all the interactions we'd had in the previous hour, is what I'd like to think. So there's my final pose of the girls. You see the faces a little closer. Now you're going to see the young girl on the right and the one, no, I think it's the one with her hand around the two tallest ones in the middle and the one on the bottom left. Do you see how much they've aged? The two that are highest and the one on the left. Yeah, I'm sure the one on the left was out of high school by now. The one in the middle, the one that gave me the lei, she may well be a graduate at that time. We went down to a famous palm grove a couple times, planted by the famous king who united the islands, Kamehameha. It took me 3 days to learn how to say his name. So this is about, a couple 100-year-old palm grove. They said you must watch. People have been killed in this grove by falling coconuts. So you just kind of keep an eye on, don't stand exactly right under one. But we were free to move around in that. And the sad thing about it, this grove is slowly dying. And nobody quite knows why. This is from our second trip. They are thinned out a little more. More of them are gone. I was just playing there. I like the abstraction. This is from the first trip. Second trip. First trip. I'm getting dizzy. Back and forth. Second trip again. But this is what we did. This is what it looked like when we tumble out of our pickups and go set up. Now we've left the palm trees for a while and are right at the same place taking pictures of a nice sunset that's starting to develop. This tidal flat went on and on and on. I zoomed in on Cole. Of course, it was Cole. He went out there and it was posing for us. He didn't say, hey, I'll go out there, but he just did it. And of course, he stayed out there doing that for a while, knowing that we was, oh, let's get a picture of Cole. So that was 2014. And the famous little blue boat, it's sitting on the sand. It's not even floating. It's so shallow there. You could probably walk a quarter of a mile and still be ankle deep. When they say it's a tidal flat, I mean, it's a tidal flat. 2018, we had a little bit different look in the evening, and there was another boat there. Couple of rocks. This is my minimalist photo. Yeah, the color looks better from the angle that I'm standing. I'm thinking, oh no, it looks beautiful on my computer. Come on up and look at it here. But the sun is gone below the horizon and we stayed. But back to the first night, we stayed till it was dark as well. And it was last night of the seminar and it was a full moon. And it was a beautifully clear sky. But of course, the ocean moisture created some of these cumulus clouds that just settled right down on the ridge. The Hui is up there, and there's that full moon. They had to finally come looking for me. They were all on the pickups ready to go back. Where's Dean? My bishop said that a lot too when I was on the cabinet. But I just was having the time of my life for that full moon in the palm grove. And experimenting. This is what you can do with a zoom lens. And you set your tripod up and you frame your shot and you set the shutter for about a second of time, which is a long time for a camera shutter to be open. Usually it's fractions of a second. And then when you click the shutter, you hesitate just a moment so that you get the image burned in a little darker than what you're going to get. When you immediately then twist the barrel of the lens and go from the farthest out into the closest view on a zoom, they can go far close. Or you can reverse it and start wide angle and then go out to the farthest. And this is what happens. And if you do it so you're not moving the lens at the first little couple ticks of a second, and the last little couple ticks of a second, you burn in a little bit darker. And the rest of it is all these beautiful shadowy parts of the same thing that the camera sees. Tried a black and white, which I kind of like. But this is the second trip, and we had on our last night a sunset again that just went on and on. The cumulus clouds rolled in off the shore and are in the valley below us. We're up at the Hui and looking over top of the clouds toward the Pacific and the sunrise in the west. Here was something I learned to do on the second trip, and that was photograph the Milky Way. Actually caught a little meteor trail on the top left there, if you see, but we went out by the pool, got up at 3 a.m. I'm not a morning person. But they said if you told us how long to leave the shutter open and turn all the lights out around any of the buildings because they pollute, they'll reflect some way off of something. You can let your shutter open for about 25 seconds, much longer than that, and you start to get little star trails because the sky is slowly moving from your vantage point, And so the Milky Way, with that 20, 25 seconds of exposure, it gets brighter and brighter and brighter. And that's what we're living in the middle of, or out on the one edge of. I saw a cool cartoon once. It was the Milky Way. It was just a black and white drawing, and it had an arrow that said, "You are here," and it had a little dot out towards the edge. You see these, they're all over in airports, "You are here." They give you a picture of the whole complex, and I thought that was funny. way out there on the fringes. I have another little meteor on the top right there that happened to show up. And the stars, oh my, the stars that come into view once your shutter is open, all that light just keeps accumulating on the sensor with the longer time that it's open. And you see the orange light at the bottom. This is way down at the water's edge. There's a little village, and there were some lights on that stayed on through the night. And just that little bit of light, maybe 8 or 10 lights in the village, shining on something, picked up enough particles in the air to leave the color. There's stars reflecting on the swimming pool where I went around the end and tried a shot there. Well, from night to bright daylight, that was a rude awakening, wasn't it? We came to the end of our week, and we had kind of a little party, porch party again, back where they told us stories of their experiences as professional shooters and helped us understand how to learn to see. So John on the left is from Lewistown, Pennsylvania. Actually, he sells very expensive hospital equipment like the scanners and stuff, but he does photo tours all over as well as a leader. Then the other three on the right, Ricky Cook of the famous family that once owned a third of the island, DeWitt in the middle, and young guy Jonathan. So they're telling more stories, and we're getting our photos of our leaders and just having a good old time. And so what I'd like to say as I finish up this is, may the eyes of your head and your heart see clearly as you go. And the word for thank you in Hawaiian is mahalo. What? Wait, there's more. This is the first of what could be, as long as Kathy doesn't pull the rug on me, as many as 8 travelogues that I had been taking them around to places like Passivant for a decade now, a lot of the UPMC facilities. I have a micro business called Day-to-Day Photography. It's from the Psalm that says, day to day pours forth speech, night to night declares knowledge, meaning, hey, the least we could do is pay attention. There's a lot of communication going on here for our souls, just in the material world around us, day and night. So that's why I call it day to day. Something to see. I better learn to see it. I better learn to pay attention. My goals, and I call it Inspirtainment, because I want to entertain, and I want to inspire, and I want to inform. So that's my descriptor for my day-to-day photography programs. I have one called Mystery Photos, and it's fun. What is this? This is one of 40. So if I ever do this and you take the test, I'll give you a sheet of paper and you can write your answers. It's a multiple choice. What do you think? D-style Play-Doh, black raspberry Italian ice, frozen blueberry custard? Is it extruded icing on a cake, mashed sweet potato? Is it new and improved silly putty? Any guesses? Did you know there are purple sweet potatoes? Well, that was on my plate on a most delicious meal that we got in Kona on the Big Island. And so I have 40 of those, and they're very, if you get half of the answers right, you're way above what most people get. I admit I took too much pleasure in figuring out this will fool them. But I gave what might be plausible answers. So you didn't have to think, well, what is that? And try to come up with it on your own. But I have that program. I have a different program on Hawaii, Visit to the Farthest Away Lands. 2,000 miles of open ocean in any direction, 360 degrees. I felt claustrophobic after I'd been there a while. When we were on the island of Kauai, which is no bigger than Butler County, and it occurred to me that most people on the island who lived there and didn't migrate to the island had lived there all their life and never been off the island. I thought to myself, could I live in Butler County and never go beyond its boundaries? How many of you would begin to feel claustrophobic if you imagined living a lifetime in Butler County? Yeah, so truly, I was happy to get back to the States. I haven't put this together. I spent a week in the woods and the backcountry of Yellowstone National Park. It was horseback. We journeyed about 50 miles in a big loop, and that was an amazing week as well. A couple of nature photographers for my leaders there. Belgium and Holland in springtime, that's a fun one that I have. I have one on the Canadian Maritime Provinces, and I have one on the Canadian Rockies, which was Calgary to Vancouver trip. We did the Arches and Canyonlands National Park, and I have a program on that, which is amazing scenes. Another favorite is Costa Rica, which we have been to now twice. The land between two continents, between two oceans. In a lot of ways, it is a unique land that is between so many other things that are kind of opposites. And I'd love to show you that travelogue. I can do others because I have tens of thousands of photos. Switzerland, Rhine and Mosel, Glacier Park, Bible lands, Israel, Egypt, Crete, Malta, Turkey, Rome. Been to Zimbabwe with some anti-malaria work with the cabinet. And so I want to finally say thank you. Thank you for coming. Every 2 or 3 months, we'll schedule one. I think April 14th is the next one. Kathy, is that your memory? I think it's April 14th. It should be in the Aspire, page 26 in your Aspire workbook. It had today's date and April 14th both. But it didn't say what the 14th would be, and I don't know which one of these I'll show next, but it will be one. So that's it, folks. Truly, I am done. And I'm most pleased that you came. It touched my heart. Thanks.